What's up, people? Welcome to the MMA Roundtable. It's been a couple weeks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got 2 weeks of stuff to break down, 2 cards to talk about. Last Saturday, we had UFC Fight Night, Gustafsson versus Manawa. The Saturday before, we had the Ultimate China finale in Macau. 2 weeks of news to break down. TRT is banned. And, of course, UFC 171 this Saturday. It's going to be sick. Let's do this shit. And thank you very much for tuning in to the MMA Roundtable. I am Jake, your humble host. You can follow me on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Visit themmapodcast.com. We do our show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So definitely check that out. We got some interviews coming down the line you'll probably be interested in. And we are joined today by 3 of my favorite roundtablists. First and foremost, I'll start with the guy who reached his weight loss goal today. He's a hell of an inspiration, a hell of a friend, coming from the UK. It's Ray Thompson from MMA Mental. What's up, buddy?
Hi, yeah, I'm very good, thanks. I'm always glad to be on the show, of course, talking MMA with you guys.
So, if you feel comfortable sharing, how long were you doing this program, and how much did you lose?
Well, I signed up to take part in a charity mixed martial arts fight, which I'm doing this weekend. I mean, I've got no form of training apart from obviously my love for the sport, and I just thought it'd be a good incentive for me to lose weight. So I set myself a goal to lose 70 pounds in 20 weeks because I was drastically overweight, and I've worked really hard. I've done lots of running. I got ready for it, and basically, I've lost my 70 pounds in 20 weeks. So I'm absolutely over the moon.
Hell yeah, and 70 pound is how many stone for our British friends?
5 stone. So there's 14 pounds in a stone, and for the so I've lost 5 stone, and for the UK MMA scene they weigh in kilograms. So I've lost 32 kilograms.
That's fucking really impressive. You are a hell of an inspiration and a hell of a friend, and congratulations. I'm sure just as much as Neil Seary is over the moon for being in the UK, like you were saying before, or for being in the UFC, like you said before the show. I'm sure you are over the moon for losing all that weight. A much better place health wise. I'm sure your friends and family are too. Congratulations. And good luck in the charity MMA event. I mean, before we get to Jay, like, I mean, are you looking to knock this dude out? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a unique experience. I mean, I want to go in and win the fight. It's 3 3-minute rounds, amateur rules, so it's a 9-minute fight. I mean, I've worked my guts off to get ready for this fight. I don't want to go in and lose. I've got people coming to watch me as well. So yeah, I want to, if I can, I want to knock him out.
hell yeah. And he isn't the only one with a British accent on the call. We also have a very close friend of mine, Jay Jeans, calling in from Wales. Jay, what the hell's going on? You have a big exam coming up?
Yes, I've got a big exam in about, I don't even know, less than 16 hours now, so a bit of pressure on. So I might be revising. I probably won't be revising, but if I don't answer the question when you say to, I am here. I just might be doing other things.
His brain is in a million places, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take the scope. Let's take it off the UK. Let's slide it toward America. Let's put it down on the map. Palmdale, California, Ventura. I know of so many places in Ventura. It kind of gets mixed up. But all you got to know is the king of California, P Money. He's on the damn show. He's ready to break down some MMA. P Money, what do you say?
Jake, you were too kind, brother. And Ray and Jay, it's always a pleasure to get on the mic with you guys and break down these fights. We missed last week, so that just means we got more goodness to go over this week, and there's a lot of hot topics and a lot of badass fights to talk about.
Palmdale, is that where you're really from? I forget what area of Cali, or we are on the air. If you want to keep it silent.
No, it's not.
Okay, where?
No, that's
where are you
that's
at?
my radio location.
Okay,
Radio
radio
location.
Palmdale. And have we added him to the call yet? Yes, we have. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but he's here now. That's all that matters. You haven't heard him on the MMA Roundtable in a hot second. He was probably your favorite. He is the heartthrob of the MMA Roundtable, the Playground Samurai. Brooks, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm good. I apologize for the complications there, but I'm here now.
It's all good. I mean, it wasn't that much of an issue. I just tried calling you a few times. I guess your shit was fucked up, but you're here now. Like I said, that's all that matters, and we do appreciate you listening. And I guess with all the formalities out of the way, let's jump straight into it. Let's start with the two cards the last couple weeks before we get to the news and obviously breaking down UFC 171. This has sort of turned into a bi-weekly show, and since we haven't done a show in 2 weeks, we've had a couple of cards. The UFC is putting on a card every single weekend this month. 3 fight nights in the tough China finale, Gustafsson Manawa, and after UFC 171 the week after, we're going to have Shogun Henderson 2, obviously UFC 171 this Saturday. So the fight night that led off the month of March is the tough China finale. Probably the weakest of the 4 cards. I mean, honestly, there's really only one fight to note. The way we're going to break it down, we're going to talk about the first 7 fights in a lump, then we're going to talk about Dong Young Kim versus John Hathaway. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you, did you stay up for it? Did you watch it on Fight Pass? This was the first card that was an exclusive Fight Pass card. They'd done the prelims on Fight Pass before, but had never done an entire card top to bottom on UFC Fight Pass. Ray, I'll throw it to you first. It was probably a little bit easier to watch it in the UK than it was in the US because it started way early here, like 3 a.m. Did you watch the card, and what did you think of the UFC's Fight Pass? I know it's probably a little bit different for you and Jay over in the UK.
We've got Fight Pass now, so we've got the same kind of deal as what you get in the US. It's funny because you say about it starting at like a late time, 3 a.m. I mean, you speak to me and Jay. That's the time all the cards start for us. That's the norm for us. But yeah, this was on in the middle of the day. I couldn't watch it live because it was my daughter's birthday, and I took her and her friends out. But I did come back and watch the whole card from top to bottom. Yeah, I know. I'm a big softie, really. But yeah, I come back and watch the card top to bottom. I enjoyed the card. It was a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. There was some good fights on the card, I thought.
Definitely, and you sound fine on my end, but it says on the recording you're coming through a little low, so you might want to move a little bit closer to the microphone. Jay Jeans, I've never had to tell you to speak up. What did you think of the UFC's Fight Pass?
I didn't actually catch the undercard, I'm afraid. I completely missed that part. I was only able to catch the main card, so you'll have to catch me in the next segment to hear my views.
Hell yeah, P-Money?
Yeah, it was pretty early for me over here in California on the West Coast, so I did not stay up for it as valiantly as I tried. I think it was like a 4 a.m. start time. Just couldn't soldier on. That's too far after last call, but I did watch it, and like Ray said, I was more pleased than I thought I would be. It was a pretty good fight card.
Hell yeah, Brooks, it was late as hell. Did you stay up and watch it, and if you have Fight Pass, what do you think of it? You with us, Brooks?
GSP fan.
GSP. Oh, yeah.
All right, my bad. I do have Fight Pass. I did not stay up to watch those fights. It was too late. Literally, all I caught was the highlight of the DHK and Hathaway fight. So as far as Fight Pass, I can't really say one way or the other. I really don't like the fact that we got to pay for these fights that we used to get for free all the time, like everybody else says. But as far as the card goes, I can't really comment on it because I didn't see much of it. The DHK, fight was about it.
Definitely, yeah. The Dong Young Kim fight was incredibly impressive. We're going to be talking about that spinning back elbow that ended the fight in a little bit. But let's switch gears. Go from what did you think of the Fight Pass to the whole card. Like I said before, it was not the most stacked card ever. In fact, maybe this and UFC Singapore I would call the two weakest cards so far in the year in the UFC. And it does suck for Asian fans. You know, the two cards that we've done in Asia are the two worst ones. But you do kind of have to understand that traveling such a long distance for a lot of these non-Asian fighters, you know, like your Sean Jordans and Matt Mitriones, it's a very difficult journey. Yeah, I mean, it's good they're working in all the local talent, but yeah, it wasn't the hugest gate. I think the attendance was like 6,000. But, you know, even though we didn't have a lot of talent, it was entertaining. The first fight of the night, Marka Diva with a huge upset over Jumabek Turshin, the Mongolian Wolf or something. I thought he had a huge amount of hype. He said he was like 31-0, even though officially I think he was like 17-0. Huge upset there. Marka Diva, the college student, defeating who a lot of people thought was the best featherweight prospect in China. Moving on, Wang and Ying defeated Albert Chang via first round TKO doctor stoppage after the first round came to an end. Vaughn Lee defeating Nam Fan via unanimous decision in what may have been a loser leaves town match. Yui Chul Nam defeating Kazuki Tokudome via split decision. Hatsu Hioki and Matt Mitrione winners in what also may have been loser leave town matches over Ivan Minjavar and Sean Jordan. Hioki with the unanimous decision, Mitrione with the KO. And finally, we were supposed to have two tough China finale fights, you know, two tough China champions. But unfortunately, one of the bouts was scrapped. We only had one, and we had Zhong Lipeng defeat Wang Sei in what actually was a pretty big upset. Split decision there, but it went to the right person. What did you think of these fights? To me, the Matt Mitrione KO with a second left in the round was pretty impressive. The performance Wang Anying put forth that first round doctor stoppage was awesome too. Out of the rest of the decisions, Hioki was dominant. Adiva was surprisingly dominant. It started off a little slow. We had a few decisions, but, you know, I have seen a lot worse. It was definitely an entertaining fight card. Enough with me yammering. Jay, what did you think of these first 7 fights?
The only ones that really stood out to me anyway was Hioki Menjivar. That fight was pretty fun. Hioki did a good job. It was closer than I thought it was going to be, and of course Matt Mitrione's he just absolutely hammered Sean Jordan at the end of that round. He had nowhere to go. He was punching him with everything. Everything was landing. The rest of the card just kind of flew me by. I did make a mistake. I thought I hadn't seen the undercard. Vaughn Lee surprised the hell out of me. He might be a lot better at flyweight or bantamweight than he was ever at featherweight.
Hell yeah, Patrick. What do you think of the 7 fights?
Well, it's interesting that Jay brings up Vaughn Lee because I was thinking that fight is kind of a litmus test for the whole card, if you will. Like, is Vaughn Lee really that good, or is Nam Fan just not that good? You know, were these fights that entertaining, or was it just kind of a talent mismatch, if you will? I can't really say for sure. I mean, it was an entertaining card overall. It's just.
I think Patrick was just shot dead in the streets of California. Are you with us, P Money? P, he's on a little bit of a loose connection today. Maybe maybe if there's a Wi-Fi around, I don't know. We're losing you. Or are you there, Patrick? All right, we'll move it along. Brooks. Oh. Patrick, you are back. Hell yeah.
Back
from the fucking
having,
dead.
Technical difficulties over here. Yeah, that was funky. No, but no, it was an entertaining card overall. It's just is it UFC quality? You know, Dana White has been saying, "Oh, these fights are for the people in the international markets. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. But if you want to, you can pay $10 for the fight pass." That's all well and good, but if that's the way it's going to be, don't pull the Matt Mitriones and Sean Jordans into those markets and, leave the American cards spread kind of thin.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
agree there with Patrick. It's hard to catch these fights, and I know I said that I didn't watch any of them. All I caught was the highlight of the main event. But I've heard about some of them, with Vaughn Lee and Nam Fan, and that was definitely a surprising outcome to me. I know that Nam Fan was a favorite in that fight, so good for you guys from the UK and Vaughn Lee. Maybe he'll step it up down a weight class. Sean Jordan and Matt Mitrione. I had a pretty good feeling that Mitrione could handle Jordan. Jordan's a hell of an athlete for a heavyweight, but I think Mitrione's came a long way in the time that he's been in the UFC. But I'd prefer those kind of fights, especially the Mitrione and Jordan fight, to be on the American cards. It's hard to catch them when they're on at that time for us here in the U.S. So, I really can't say anything else. Besides Vaughn Lee, we did see some potential from him when he fought Kid Yamamoto, and he did beat him. And, maybe Yamamoto didn't live up to the hype when he came into the UFC, but I still think that's a pretty good feat to overcome. And maybe he's rising up again.
For sure. Slim, what did you think of the 7 fights?
I'm just going to pick out some of my personal highlights because, I did watch the whole card, and some of the fights, they're not really that exciting, nothing really jumped out for me on all the fights. The first fight I'm going to pick up on is Vaughn Lee Nam Fan. Nam Fan looked, I think majority of us all spoke to Nam Fan at some point, and I think we all like Nam Fan, but he looked absolutely awful in this fight. Vaughn Lee, it was such a one-sided fight, and one of the judges even gave one round as a 10-8. It was just, Nam Fan was never in the fight. It was absolutely terrible. He was so gun shy. He didn't fire nothing, and that's not like him. So Lee just outclassed him. Whether that's down to Fan being bad or Lee being good, I don't know. But all Vaughn Lee can do is beat the person put in front of him, and he did it, in style. The best fight that I'm surprised hasn't been mentioned yet was the fight of the night, which was Yoi Chul Nam versus Kazuki Tokudome. Fight was ridiculous. That fight was ridiculous. The first round, that Nam, gee whiz, he hits hard. And he knocked Tokudome down 5 times in the first round. You could have even called it a 10-7 round. It was that one-sided. Somehow Tokudome stayed in the fight and actually went on to win the second round. So going to the third round, it was, a round each, apart from maybe the first round being 10-8. It was actually a really, really good fight. How Tokudome went the distance, I don't know. But that for me was the highlight of the night outside of the main event. Hioki Menjivar, Hioki won, but he wasn't impressive at all. Wasn't impressive at all. And in the third round, he was lucky not to get knocked out. He got caught with the overhand right, and he had to kind of hang on. So Hioki came in with a lot of hype, and he's not really lived up to it. Mitrione definitely impressed. It was a very impressive finish over Jordan. And the tough finale, the fight did nothing for me. I wasn't excited for the fight. I watched the series. The series was awful. And I thought it was the wrong decision personally, but I don't care enough to kind of put a case forward for it because I didn't care for either fighter, and I didn't care the other fight was scrapped either. That's how bad the season was. Because normally in the past, when you've had someone pull out of the finale, they've replaced him with someone else. But when the season's that bad, you can't replace him.
Yeah, we will move on. I'm glad you brought up the fight between Yoi Chul Nam and Kazuki Tokudome because that was a great fight. That was fight of the night. The performances of the night going to Matt Mitrione and the winner we're about to talk about, Dong Young Kim, in the main event, defeating John Hathaway, coming off a pretty big layoff. I don't think he'd fought for like a year and a half. In that third round, one of the most beautiful counter strikes I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. Not just this year, not just this was beautiful. Hathaway throws, and Kim times it perfectly, Jesus Christ, throws the spinning back elbow, nails him flush, knocks him out. It was an amazing knockout. What'd you think of the fight? Kim winning it 1 minute and 2 seconds into the third round of 5. And what next for Dong Young Kim? Kim's sort of been up and down. We're not sure what to make of him. When he lost 2 out of 3 to Carlos Condit and Damian Maia, a lot of people were sort of getting down on him. But you look at his record now, he not just has 4 wins, he has 4 impressive wins in a row. Paulo Tiago and CR Bahadurizada by unanimous decision. He knocked out Eric Silva, and for all the people saying that knockout of Eric Silva was lucky, he went back out and had another knockout in his next fight against John Hathaway. Currently looking at Fight Matrix, Dong Young Kim is ranked in the top 10. He's number 9. You have other people floating out in that same area. Lombard, number 8. Matt Brown, number 10. They're going to be fighting Jake Shields and Eric Silva next, respectively. What do you think of the fight? And what do you think is next for Dong Young Kim, who is back on the horse, racing after that title run? P-Money?
I thought it was a good fight for Dong Young Kim. He came out from the first bell early on for John Hathaway, and it was pretty much just a barn burner for all 3 rounds up until that spectacular finish. Like you said, it was definitely a very, very good strike. We don't see counters that often of that caliber. I mean, that was just that was like someone missing a head kick and getting knocked out with another head kick. Like it was just like UFC video game style. Very entertaining. Like you said, Dong Young Kim, he's put together 4 good wins now. I'd like to see him take on maybe Damian Maia, get that rematch I'm sure he wants. If that doesn't make sense, since he's coming off the loss to Rory Mack, maybe put him up against Gunnar Nelson, who's 3-0 in the UFC now.
Yeah, like I said, all I seen was the highlight of the main event. So I did see the spinning back elbow, and that was definitely crazy. One of the coolest knockouts I've ever seen. Perfect counter. From what I've seen in the highlights and from what everybody was saying, Hathaway wasn't actually looking that great or comparable to what he has been in the past. I know he's been out for a while. But, yeah, DHK is on a run right now. He's put on some snoozers in the past. He was people were saying he was laying, praying, whatever, using wrestling and whatever. But it's crazy now. Two awesome knockouts in a row. He knocked the hell out of Eric Silva, which was surprising to me. I had picked Silva, and to be completely honest, I thought Silva was winning that fight up until the point that, he just got caught up, and it wasn't lucky by any means. So all credit to Kim. And this spinning back elbow is just letting everybody know he's for real. He's got that knockout power. He can be exciting. He's not just a lay and pray, boring fighter. And as far as next matchups,
sorry.
I'm sorry. As far as next matchups, I would like to see a Maia rematch. Even though he's coming off a loss, I think it makes sense right now because, it wasn't a one-sided decision up until the end. I think that if he was competitive with Rory Mack, but I still like that rematch because I'd like to see how DHK comes in, and I think he'd fare better.
Yeah, I like that rematch too. Maia at 7, Kim at 10 on the UFC rankings. And their first fight, that was fluky as hell. If you didn't watch it, Kim literally just collapsed randomly in the middle of the fight because he had like muscle spasms or something. And anyone dealing with that knows you can't fight if you're having a muscle spasm, let alone stand up. So, yeah, definitely would love to see that. Ray, what did you think of the main event and a South Korean with the stunning knockout on the Englishman?
Yeah, picking up on what Brooks has just said, Kim's gone from being this boring lay and pray fighter, the kind of John Fitch and Yushin Akami kind of mold, and of course we've seen both of them get cut from the UFC now. And then he has this knockout over Eric Silva. And again, like Brooks, I thought Silva was going to win that fight, and I thought he was winning that fight up to that point. And then he comes and does this against Hathaway. I mean, this is the first time, apparently, in the UFC that we've had a spinning elbow knockout. We've had spinning elbows thrown before, but never knocked out like that. I mean, it was to watch it as it was happening was unbelievable. Again, going on how the fight was going, Kim was landing big shots from the off on Hathaway, and Hathaway was struggling. But then when Hathaway got into grapple, he was able to take Kim down, and he looked good on the grappling exchanges. But on the feet, Kim was definitely landing bombs. But the elbow was just absolutely amazing. As for next, the fights I like that have been mentioned so far, Kim versus Gunnar Nelson sounds good. I mean, Nelson looked pretty impressive. I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit, but he looked pretty impressive at the weekend. But the other fight I like, put him Obviously, he's ninth now, so really he wants to be fighting someone who's ranked higher than him. But I'd say give him the winner of Jake Shields and Hector Lombard because they're fighting this weekend as well.
J Jeans.
Shit, sorry, man, that's me. The fight I still really want to see is Mike Pierce, but I understand that Mike Pierce is coming off that loss now. Mike Pierce was on a nice win streak up until that Husmar Polaris held his leg for a bit too long. Stun Gun's been looking great. I think you guys might be right. As Ray just said, Rory McDonald, not Rory McDonald, the winner of Jake Shields Lombard makes a lot of sense, but I guess Maya should be considered. Maya is coming off that loss though, but overall, yeah, Stun Gun just looked amazing. That's got to be down for the KO of the year.
As Nick Diaz and Jay Jeans are famous to say, oh, we're throwing spinning shit now, and he did just that. Through that spinning shit, knocked out John Hathaway in the third round. Let's change gears from the Tough China finale. A week afterwards, we had another card that was broadcast exclusively on Fight Pass. Apparently, the UFC wanted this on Fox Sports 1, but it was not in Fox's budget. Sort of an interesting note as to why this was on the Fight Pass, because the UFC didn't budget for it. Sort of like before we talked about the fights last time we discussed Fight Pass, I want to discuss something before the fights this time around too. If you watch the card, UFC Fight Night Gustafsson Manoa, I think it was the 38th fight night, you notice something very different. Usually, for pay-per-views or Fox cards, we have Rogan and Goldie. For all the other ones, we have Anik and Florian as the commentary team. And no matter where the fight is, literally in Macau, you got Bruce Buffer. In Vegas, you got Bruce Buffer. Brazil, Australia, Bruce fucking Buffer. We had a total change this past Saturday. We had a complete British announcing team. John Gooden and Dan Hardy taking the commentating roles from Kenny Florian and John Anik. Gooden obviously being the role of an Anik or a Goldie, and Hardy filling in that color commentator role like Florian and Rogan do. And even more surprising, we had Andy Friedlander sub in for Bruce Buffer, who I liked. He had a couple mistakes, but he was alright. I want to know what you guys thought of a completely new team. I did like it, but I'm not gonna lie, at first I felt like I was not watching the UFC. I felt like I was watching Legacy or Titan or RFA or something, because I just feel like the UFC brand, like, Bruce Buffer is the UFC. These guys are the UFC. So it was difficult at first, but I eventually settled in. Brooks, what did you think of the UFC's all-British announcing team?
I thought it was interesting, to say the least. When it comes down to it, I'm really just wanting to watch the fights. I really don't care who the ring announcer is. The commentating, it does matter a little bit to me. I didn't necessarily care for the other guy. I thought it was really cool that Dan Hardy was there, and I thought he did a really good job. That doesn't seem like something that would be up his alley, the commentating thing, but I thought he did a pretty good job. They kind of messed up a little bit after the card. It seemed like they didn't know what to say, but they did. They did all right. I'd like to see, another fighter with Dan Hardy in there. I'm always interested to hear the fighters commentating for some reason, whether it's, Kenny Florian, who isn't the greatest in my opinion, but it's still interesting to hear their points of view. Dan Hardy, Stephan Bonner. It'd be awesome if at some point the UFC would bring in Bas Rutten. I don't know why that isn't possible. It doesn't seem possible because he's always doing commentating for other promotions. But, I prefer fighters' points of views, and I do like Joe Rogan a lot too. Maybe that's just because, I listen to him on his podcast and everything else, so I don't know, but, that's basically my opinion of it. It doesn't matter about the ring announcer to me.
Word, yeah, Rutten would be an amazing addition. Him and also Lenny Hart. I would love a UFC Japan card and to just see the sort of pride level, fireworks and introducing. Lenny Hart is a fucking stud. Ray, what did you think of the British team? I'm sure it made you feel like you were you were actually at the event. Did you go back and watch it? Did you do any of that? And how was Andy, in the actual O2 Arena?
Yeah, I was at the event, so I didn't hear any of the commentary. I can't comment on that. Apparently, they had because it was on the UK as well. It was on a UK channel on Channel 5, and from what I gather, that was the way they did that on Channel 5 was a bit strange. They had Forrest Griffin, and I don't know who the other person was, but I think Forrest Griffin was good, but I don't think the other person was very good. But I'm not sure who that was. I didn't hear how Dan Hardy and John Gooden got on, so I can't comment on them. Dan Hardy's interviews in the ring seemed okay. Obviously, I could hear them; they seemed okay. And the ring announcer, he was okay at what he did, but he didn't have the charisma of Bruce Buffer. And I think when you're used to seeing Bruce Buffer, you did kind of miss that. So he was good, but he wasn't Bruce Buffer good, if that makes sense.
I just don't think that the British accent has quite got its has quite earned its place in the UFC scene yet. I mean, it just didn't sound right. Of course, I'm a Rogan fan and Bas Rutten fan, and I think that would be the best combination to ever have. But Dan Hardy was okay. The other guy sounded like a complete and utter, as you would say, Jake, bum status. And the cage announcer, I think he made one mistake and it was obvious. I think there's a lot of nerves. Be interesting to see it happen again. See how the funniest thing was one of the ring girls. If you watch that way, and she is there standing awkward as hell. She's cold. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know when to clap. Overall, I was quite disappointed by the UK crew, but that's what happens when you only send us one event a year. Nobody really knows what's going on. So more events, and we might get better.
Yeah, that one chick. It's funny you mentioned her. She was cracking me up. P Money, what did you think of the British announcing team?
Well, I got to echo Jay's sentiments. Hopefully, they'll get better as it goes on. I didn't think they did a terrible job. I thought it was fairly admirable, considering who knows how long that team had been together, how long they had to prep for the show. Live TV broadcast across the globe through Lord knows how many different forms of media. I thought they did okay. Let's give it a few more events and see if they can get a little more cohesive in there. I don't think they made any mistakes near the level of some of the gems that Goldie and Rogan have dropped on us over the years, but no, they did okay for me.
Yeah, they I couldn't agree more. It felt a little weird. I don't know, at first I was like, what the fuck is this? But damn it, I love a good British accent. Let's move on to the prelim fights. We had 5 of them on that UFC Fight Pass, even though all the fights were on UFC Fight Pass. The 5-fight prelim card and 4-fight main card. The prelim card: Luis Gaudino defeating Phil Harris via first round guillotine. Igor Araujo defeating the Cheesecake Assassin via unanimous decision. One of my favorite moments was the whole crowd yelling "Cheesecake." Claudio Silva defeating Brad Scott via unanimous decision. The Brits started off 0-3, but Luke Barnett finally got him back on the board with a slick first-round TKO over Mats Nelson, who actually did do better striking than I thought he would, but losing in the first round via TKO, I can't say he did that well via striking. And Ilir Latifi, the strong-ass 205er, defeating Cyril Diabate in his final fight, another first-round guillotine. What'd you guys think of these 5 fights? Ray, you were there. I'm sure the crowd went nuts when Luke Barnett knocked out Mats Nelson. And I'm sure you went nuts too. You're like buddies with him.
Yeah, it was really good. So, quick summary then. The crowd went nuts as soon as Luke walked out, to be honest with you. And of course, once he got the finish, especially with us losing the first 3 fights, they did go mad. Gaudino Harris, I think Harris was probably the biggest disappointment for me on the card. He just didn't turn up for the fight at all. I don't think we'll see him in the UFC again now. I think that'll be it for Phil Harris. Gaudino made light work of him. He won very easily. Cheesecake and Danny Mitchell. Igor Araujo and Danny Mitchell. That was actually a pretty good fight. It was obviously predominantly a grappling fight. And even though Araujo was on top, Mitchell worked really hard to stay in the fight. He was always looking to improve his position, trying to get off from the bottom. He landed some pretty nasty heel hooks, but Igor, being the type of fighter he was never going to tap. What made that fight a little bit harder for me was my mate who runs Your MMA, he trains with Danny Mitchell. His name's Jay Furness, and he was standing behind me, and he was kind of in the cage with him. He said he was more nervous for that fight than his own fight, so that was quite interesting because he was behind me and he was like, he's got the hook, and then he was kind of in the fight with him. So, Claudio Silva, Brad Scott, I actually thought that should have been fight of the night. Personally, I thought that was the best fight. I thought Brad Scott was really unlucky. I mean, he battered him so much in that second round with the body kicks and the body punches, and he had him hurt, and he should have gone in for the kill, and he thought he'd caught him with an illegal strike, and he stood back, and the ref was telling him to wave on, and he didn't. He got poked in the eye 3 times. I thought Silva should have had a point deducted for that after poking him 3 times. So I felt a bit sorry for Brad Scott. I thought he was a bit cheated out of that fight. Luke looked amazing, great finish. Mats Nielsen, the height was just the reach was just too much for him in the end. And Latifi looked pretty good as well. I mean, Diabate's a good guy. We know he's not great on the ground, but Latifi made light work of him and beat him pretty easy. And of course, Diabate announced his retirement at the end. He got quite a good response in the press conference as well, which was nice.
Overall, yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the Luke Barnett fight, I thought Mats was going to have him, and I think Mats really did show a ton of great striking. Yeah, Cyril Dibiati is a really sad to see him bow out, but I guess he is old, and you've got to remember the war he had with Shogun and things in his past that were just, he was a hell of a fighter back in the day. Yeah, overall the card was good, and then you had the Brits going 0-3 as you mentioned, absolutely appalling. Phil Harris getting caught in a guillotine. That's amateur stuff. And then you had, in my eyes, what was amateur hour between David Mitchell and the other guy in the third round, where what the hell were they doing with those, like, I think they're called butterfly punches, or they're just going crazy or something. And then Brad Scott, who just didn't seem to notice how hurt his opponent was. It was hard to be a Brit at the beginning, but overall, yeah, it was a fun card.
Patrick?
Yeah, I have to agree. It was a solid undercard showing. Gaudino definitely came through pretty easily there. Good stuff all the way around. I definitely thought the Ilir Latifi Cyril Diabate fight was interesting just because neither fighter attempted a significant strike. I don't think either of them attempted a strike, period. It was just very interesting. It was what seemed like a super long feeling out, trying to get the range process. But again, they weren't even pulling out jabs. They were just kind of circling, and then Latifi shot in, and it was over before you even knew it. It was a interesting fight, but definitely entertaining overall. I love the Igor Araujo Mitchell in the third round when they were both exchanging leg locks and they had this little hammer fist exchange. That was just a funny sequence. I'm sure there'll be a gif of that around somewhere.
Word, yeah, that man, I think I sent that to like 5 of my friends. That was cracking me up. Wait, actually, Brooks, you're still up. Brooks, what did you think of the prelim fights?
I thought the Silva fight with Scott was kind of disappointing. Bradley Scott had him on the ropes in the second round. He thought he hit an illegal shot. The ref didn't do anything. He didn't follow up on it. I was pretty disappointed in that. Plus, he got poked in the eye a couple times, if I'm remembering correctly. So that was kind of disappointing, too. I think Silva got kind of lucky there, escaped with that. Luke Barnett was awesome. He was getting kind of pieced up there at the beginning. And, I thought Mats was going to do a lot better than everybody expected. But just like Luke, he comes back and gets the TKO win in the first round. Comes back and just batters him with a nice knee, I believe it was, and then hit him with some good punches. Diabate, he's a good guy. I feel kind of bad for him to go out like that. It was a bad matchup. Latifi's a good wrestler. Diabate is just not that well on the mat. So, maybe he should have got a better matchup because everybody knew he was retiring. He announced it before the fight. But that's how it goes. I think Latifi has some potential. It'd be nice to see who they match him up with next and see how he does.
Yeah, Iller, his first fight was against one of the best in Gegard Mousasi. He's had a little bit of time. He's strong as hell. Teammates with Alex Gustafsson, so obviously progressing along in a decent clip. And yeah, I mean he's really strong as an ox. I watched a video recently of him deadlifting like 450 pounds like 25 times in a row. That guy is a monster. Let's move from the prelims to the main card. We'll save Gustafson Manoa for last, but we'll group those three fights up. Michael Johnson, Brad Pickett, and Gunnar Nelson, all winners respectively over Melvin Guillard, Neil Seery, and Omari Akhmedov. Johnson and Pickett winning actually via the same judge's score, unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. Both of those fights were closer than the scores lead on, though. Seery, who is the biggest underdog on the card, actually went out. I don't think he won the fight. I think Pickett and Johnson were the fair winners. But Seery, I mean, going against a guy who was that good at bantamweight, going against a guy who beat the current flyweight champion, Demetrius Johnson, Seery looked excellent. You gotta love Neil Seery today, posting a picture. He's sweeping up the warehouse. He's back to work. He is truly the working man of the UFC. In the other fight, Gunnar Nelson, who he looked at one of the most dominant performances I've seen. Yeah, he was fighting a guy who wasn't really known in Omari Akhmedov, but that first round guillotine choke. Gunnar Nelson is gonna fight someone legit next, cause he went out there and man, I honestly think that may have been the biggest domination of 2014 to date. He's 25, he's young. And the Icelander, who seems to have emotions just as cold as ice. Yeah, I really think he's something. UFC title caliber, we'll see, but he is definitely something. Jay, what did you think about Johnson, Pickett, and Nelson all winning?
Man, Nelson is an absolute beast. Brad Pickett can't put away a bum. Michael Johnson and Gillard were inactive for 15 minutes, but no, overall they were good fights. Gillard, I expected a bit more from. Brad Pickett with a full training camp, he should have beaten somebody who had a 12-9 record. He should have done better. I understand that he looked good, but who did he beat? That's the question. And how did he beat them? He gave Seery too much of a chance in that fight. And yeah, Nelson's an absolute beast, man. I'm sorry that the Russian didn't win. Never pick against the Russian. This one there was no doubt before it began.
P-Money.
Those were two good fights right there. Johnson Gillard, it looked like perhaps it was familiarity through sparring, fearing each other's power. I mean, they did both rock each other at some point in that fight, so there was some action, and perhaps that just made them hesitant for the duration of the fight. Pickett Seery, that was Pickett should not have let it be that close. But it was an entertaining fight anyhow, like all the flyweight fights are. Great back and forth, good stand-up, some decent groundwork. But yeah, the real story was definitely Gunnar Nelson over Omari Akhmedov. Akhmedov coming down from 185. He had just knocked out Thiago Perpetuo at 185. He's got all the combat sambo accolades you could think of. Huge 170. And Gunnar Nelson just came in, did him fucking dirty, pinpoint stand-up, destruction on the ground, full mount, sick elbows. It was a fantastic display from Gunnar Nelson. I really hope he stays healthy and we get to see him again soon.
Yeah, I agree with Patrick. Gunnar Nelson is just nasty. I think that he has tons of potential. I was looking forward to his fight in the first place. I think that was the most anticipated fight, in my opinion. Someone I would love to see him matched up with is Eric Silva, just because they're both young, and I think they both have so much potential, so that would be a great fight to see. Pickett, it is what it is. I think his opponent was a little bit underrated. He had quite a streak coming into the fight, and he's got some good striking. And that's about it.
I mean, for me, Gunnar Nelson was the performance of the night. I know he got the bonus, but if I was to pick one fighter who stood out for me that night, it'd be him. I mean, I've not been sold on Gunnar Nelson up to this point. I wasn't that impressed with his last two fights. Demarcus Johnson, I don't rate very highly, and the Santiago fight wasn't the best fight, but this was brilliant. I mean, he was leagues above his opponent. Really, really impressed with this fight. Pickett Siri, it was a good fight. I don't think it was as good as what everyone's making it out to be because I think Pickett relied on his wrestling too much. Siri was a lot tougher than what people gave him credit for. You know, he's made a real name for himself in Cage Warriors. He's got a reputation for being a tough Irishman. So I thought he was definitely being underestimated a bit too much. But I did think Pickett would get the stoppage. Johnson Gillard fight was absolutely awful. I don't think it was down to Johnson. I think it was down to Gillard. He just seemed to not want to engage. Johnson actually said at the press conference afterwards that he thought Gillard, and he said it in the post-fight interview that he thought Gillard was scared of him. Talking about next for Nelson, I don't know who will be fighting next, but because Gunnar Nelson trains and lives in Ireland, because he trains with Conor McGregor, of course, so I think he'll be on the Dublin card because he's such a big draw over there in Ireland. He's like their adopted son.
Jay Jeans, you with us?
I am.
Jay, you there?
I've
Jay
already
went
spoken
first.
about it. Yeah, I went first.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm all out of sorts today. Jesus Christ. All right, let's let's move on. Yeah. Nelson really stood out to me. Just a fucking dominating performance. Let's move on. I'll edit all that out in post. The light heavyweight main event, Alexander Gustafsson taking on Jimmy Manuwa. I'm not gonna lie, I sat up here and I was saying Jimmy Manuwa's gonna win. I still think he is a great fighter, but Alexander Gustafsson is that dude. Defeating him via TKO a minute 18 into the second round, and it was just such a smart combination. I feel like every single strike not only was it thrown with great power and technique, but he was reacting by a split second, just throwing those strikes perfectly. What did you think of the fight, Gustafsson versus Manuwa? And on top of that, I have two other questions for you. Jimmy Manuwa, do you think we ever see him fight for the belt? And of course, the obvious question now, assuming that John Jones beats Glover Teixeira at UFC 173, which anything could happen, but, you know, Jones is a huge favorite over Glover. Who you got in the rematch? John Jones or Alexander Gustafsson? P-Money?
Okay, well, I'll answer these in reverse order, or from last to first. So, I will take Gustafsson over John Jones in the rematch. I'll take him all day. After the display he put on Saturday night, I mean, my God, that was just a great performance. And really, Gustafsson got robbed so hard in that first fight. How that wasn't plain to see that he beat the shit out of John Jones and should have been the champion. I mean, that was just clear as day. Anyhow, Jimmy Manuwa, yeah, I think I could see him fighting for the title. I think he had all the tools to beat Gustafsson. He still does. He's a fucking beast, and he will be in the top 5. He'll be in title contention real quick as soon as he gets back in there. And the fight itself, I mean, it was just a good show from Gustafsson right out the gate. Manuwa was coming out hard, throwing his precision monster strikes, and Gustafsson checking the first leg kick. I mean, he was on it from the beginning. Solid takedown, just a great game plan overall. And that knee was just vicious. That combo to end it, it was crazy. It wasn't like the fake ass Bellator throwing fights and shit. This was some real brutal knockouts. It was a fantastic display from Gustafsson.
Brooks, you still with us? I'm pretty sure you might be muted. No, Brooks. We will move on. Ray, what did you think of Gustafsson Manuwa?
It was a good fight. I mean, I was obviously rooting for Manuwa, but I thought Gustafsson would win. I think at the start of the fight with the stand-up, a bit like the Pickett Siri fight, the person who didn't expect to be winning the stand-up was. I think Manuwa was landing big shots, which is why Gustafsson got the takedown. Gustafsson said that himself in the post-fight interview as well. But the finish was beautiful. I mean, him that landed with the knee and then got the stoppage. Where I think Luke Barnett, he landed with a head kick and got the stoppage. But yeah, it was a great finish. Gustafsson proved himself to be one of the top guys in the division.
J Jeans.
Man, Gustafsson looked incredible. Just came out. He looked aggressive, which is something we haven't really seen from him in recent fights. I mean, he's always been a bit of a tactician, supposedly, and he looked incredible. He really is. The first round he was a tactician. He went for the takedown, controlled him on top, as we've seen Manuwa. That seems to be Manuwa's weakness. And then when Manuwa was all worried about the takedown, he just poured it on. And that knee, he beat Manuwa at his own game with that knee. It's a hell of a fight. Yeah, good performance by Gustafsson. I look forward to Jones Gustafsson too. But first of all, Jones has got to not underestimate Glover.
Word. Brooks, you back with us yet? Brooks is not back with us, so we will move on. The man is saving the world one step at a time. I won't hate because the man's got damn work to do, but we will move on past Gustafsson versus Manuwa and get to the bonehead of the week. Bone.
Bone, 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 bone.
All right, my bonehead of the week this week has got to be Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei, look, Chael Sonnen has done 2 seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, and both of them have been tumultuous seasons. He did one with John Jones. But you know what Chael and John did? They got together and said, you know what? This isn't about us. This isn't about me hating you. This is about the contestants on The Ultimate Fighter. We're set. We have jobs in the UFC. We're stars. We're not going to get cut anytime soon. We're making money. We're good. But all the kids here in The Ultimate Fighter, they're all up and coming. None of them are signed to the UFC. None of them are close to as well off financially as us. So you know what? Let's take the attention off us and put it on them. And look at what's happened. So many fighters from that season are doing well. Kelvin Gastelum, Uriah Hall, Luke Barnett, Clint Hester. The list goes on. Tor Trong, Zach Cummings. So we would have seen win in Macau, but we didn't. Anyway, my bonehead's Wanderlei Silva. He's taking the attention from these fighters. Chael Sonnen is trying to do nothing but be there for the people. Yeah, he said shit about Brazil, whatever. But Wanderlei Silva is in there like a fucking nutcase, trying stuff with him. All of this, the season of Tough Brazil 3 started this past Sunday. It's going to be every Sunday night on UFC Fight Pass, which you can purchase at UFC.tv. Get a 1-week free trial as well. Wanderlei Silva, quit being such a meathead, a juice head, a bonehead, and let these fighters get some fucking spotlight. Jay?
My bonehead is going to be for the UK Amateur Hour, and I'm not talking about the commentary team. I'm talking about the first 3 fights in the card. I don't know what was going on. It's just absolutely disgraceful. I mean, you had Phil Harris who got caught by the most amateur move in MMA, the old guillotine. Not only that, but he went for the slam, and Gordon was able to flip it. I don't know what was going on in that fight. And then you had Danny Mitchell, who couldn't seem to work out. Their leg lock wasn't going to work. You had that last minute flurry that looked absolutely pathetic. Why are you throwing those sort of punches from the bottom? That just proves how desperate you are. And then Brad Scott, who absolutely dominated the second round, close first round. How the hell he wasn't more aggressive, and how he didn't look for the finish is just beyond me. Those 3 guys are all on Amateur Hour, and it was embarrassing to be from the UK in my eyes.
Powerful words, Ray.
I think it's a bit harsh personally, but my bonehead's the pre-fight injury. We've seen it in the last couple of weeks where we've had fights pulled last minute for different reasons, but this week it was David Grant tweaked his knee. I actually saw David Grant at the venue, and the guy was hobbling, and apparently he still wanted to fight. It just shows you his character. But yeah, he tweaked his injury, and of course we lost the fight. It went from 10 to 9. So not blaming any one person, any individual, but just in general, pre-fight injury is my bonehead of the week.
P-Money?
Yes, my bonehead of the week this week, unfortunately, is Brad Pickett. Normally always the classy contender, a good representative for British mixed martial arts. Not saying that he wasn't this weekend, but I thought a few of his comments made in his post-fight interview and at the post-fight press conference were just a little bit condescending. He had said something to the effect of he felt like he should have finished Neil Seery, and that he fights to the level of his competition is essentially what he had alluded to also in the post-fight press conference. Give credit to Seery. I mean, yeah, you go in there expecting to be able to finish a guy, but when you can't finish him because he's boxing you up, don't go out there and start saying, oh, I fight to the level of my competition. No, that's just garbage, and definitely not the kind of talk I like to hear from Brad Pickett. Normally always a classy guy. I have to pick him for my bonehead of the week.
Brooks?
My bonehead is Tyron Woodley. He came out in an interview this week and basically said that Carlos Condit is a point fighter. I don't know if he's trying to, make him change up his game plan, last minute or something. But, I mean, if you look at Carlos Condit's past fights, I'm pretty sure, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he finishes like 97% of his fights. I mean, he had one fight where, against Nick Diaz, where people were a little bit upset with the way he fought. But aside from that fight, I mean, he's finishing people left and right. DHK finished him with a crazy flying knee. He knocked out Dan Hardy, not something people do every day. I mean, this guy finishes everybody. And Tyron Woodley, of all people, is going to call out people for being a point fighter. When he was in Strikeforce, this guy couldn't finish anybody. If he would have fought Seery, he wouldn't have finished Seery either at that point in his career. So, I mean, he doesn't have any room to speak. And I do admit that he's looked a lot better as far as finishing fights lately, but he shouldn't be talking like that. And I see kind of putting a whooping up on him, and, similar to what Nate Marquardt did, which is kind of funny to remember, too. So that's my bonehead of the week, Tyron Woodley.
Yeah, that was brutal. And to call somebody with one of the best finishing rates in UFC history a point fighter, come on, son. Like, Woodley, I love the shit out of you. Literally, I saw Woodley the most last trip in Vegas, and I'm a big fan of his now. I'm going to be rooting for him against Condit. But saying he's a point fighter, come on, that's like saying George St. Pierre is a finisher. That's just not true. It's false. I want to give it to Woodley, but I'm not, because Woodley's my boy. I got to give it to Brad Pickett, man. I like Pickett too. But saying that sort of disrespectful stuff after a win, come on, man, have a little bit of class. Basically what he said is, yeah, my opponent was bad, so I fight bad, because I fight to his level, so there you go. No, man, Neil Seery's a motherfucker, and you got to give him way more credit than that. Brad Pickett, one punch, you get a point for being my bonehead of the week. Jay?
They're all really good options. I think I've got to go with I'm going to go with Brad Pickett on this one. He should have got the finish.
I'm gonna go with Tyrone Woodley for calling Carlos Condit, who's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC, a points finisher, points fighter.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll pick Tyron Woodley as well. Quite an asinine statement. I think, 27 of 29 of Carlos Condit's victories have been finishes, something like that, guys. Point fighter, no, he's quite the opposite.
And I got to agree with Pickett here. That is some ridiculous statements he was making post fight and in the press conference. I think it was really low class. And I thought a lot more of Pickett before he said all that stuff. That's why I think it's so bad.
And with that vote, that edges Pickett out 3 votes to 2. Brad Pickett, you are our bonehead of the week. We love the shit out of you, but dude, you won the fight. Let's have a little bit of class. Neil Seery is a good fighter. He put up with a decent fight on Saturday. And like I said, you are our bonehead. Enough with breaking down UFC fights. Let's get to the damn news, people. And and we had some huge news coming down the line. News so big, we might look back on the year 2014. Shit, honestly, we might look back on the decade of the 2010s and say this was historically the biggest thing that went down. This is huge. The NSAC, the most forward-thinking, revolutionary athletic commission in the States. Usually once the NSAC makes a decision, every other state falls in line. So basically when the NSAC makes a ruling, that usually goes across the entire board. The NSAC bans TRT. No more testosterone, no more therapeutic use exemptions. It's completely banned. No fighters will be on TRT. It sort of works out because currently there are no therapeutic use exemptions in place for future fights. So Vegas can just say, all right, there's none in the future scheduled. We're not going to make any more. This is big news, because obviously there are two sides of the coin. There are fighters like Vitor Belfort who apparently have the ability to go on and off testosterone. If you really have a problem, whether it's natural or from taking steroids in the past, which I've said before, if you took steroids in the past, you shouldn't be punished and not be able to take TRT ever again, because that is, that's just saying, okay, you did steroids once and now your whole career is fucked. You have guys like Chael Sonnen who can't come off TRT and literally have said they might need to retire. That's the downside of it. You have the other side of Vitor Belfort, who it seems pretty obvious he abuses it. He goes on and off it. His body style has changed tremendously the last couple of years. But, I'm happy with the ruling long term. Short term, it might have some shitty consequences. But just, the fact that young fighters like Chris Weidman, 25, 26-year-old dudes, won't have to fight somebody loaded up on testosterone when they themselves are fighting natural, I think that really is the fairest way to go. But I've heard a lot of mixed comments on it. I'll throw it to Brooks first. Brooks, what was your reaction to the news that Nevada has decided to ban TRT, and is this fair?
To be completely honest, I am very, very, very happy about it. It's just that they get the attention, sometimes they abuse it, and any room for that right now, or any time in the future.
We're not hearing what you're saying. I'm gonna go ahead and cut you off. You're cutting in and out really bad. We can't make out what you're saying. I don't know if you can turn on Wi-Fi maybe on your phone. That'll help maybe, but yeah, you're cutting in and out. We'll get to you at the end, see if maybe your connection's a little bit better. Ray, what was your reaction to the news that Nevada has decided to ban TRT?
It was pretty bad. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. But from what my understanding of TRT is, it seems like has been used as like a legalized steroid. It gives these guys an advantage of strength or whatever in the fights. And of course, Balfour's been on a hell of a run. So I'm glad it's been banned. And I know the points you make, of course, of some of the effective level on some of the guys now, I understand. But in the future, it means that because those guys in the future will never be relying on it, it will never be an issue in the future. So in the long run, I think it's the best thing for it to be banned.
J Jeans.
It's a really interesting situation given now the UFC. I think the UFC's banned. I think you might have said that, but you've got some guys, like you said, the old guys like Anthony Perosh who aren't taking it. Then you had Randy Couture who was taking it. It's fantastic news for all the guys, all the innocent guys like who have never even been questioned. Guys like Carlos Condit, whose body shape you can tell he's never taken any drugs. But some of these guys, like the Bigfoots, like the Overeems, you wonder what's going to happen to them now. And even Chael Sonnen's thinking about whether he can continue. It's an interesting debate, and we'll see how it unfolds. I think that's what we're going to happen. See who quits. I mean, the most interesting statistic I think I read Bisping. I hope this isn't on the Guess That Tweet game, because I'm going to give you all an answer now. I think he said he's only lost to one fighter who wasn't on TRT and who hasn't taken TRT, and that says a lot about the sort of guys who's beaten Michael Bisping.
Yeah, I believe I'm looking up his record now. He said he's like on his record he's got 5 losses, but he said, really I only should have 1 loss now, referring to Vitor Belfort, Chael Sonnen. I'm assuming Vanderlei Silva and Dan Henderson, the only fighter of that group who he's lost to, who is not on TRT, Rashad Evans, early in his career in 2007. As much as Bisping runs his mouth and says inane things, sometimes he does make a little bit of a point there. Patrick, what do you think about Nevada? And like Jay said, I forgot to mention that bit. The UFC is also banning it. The Brazilian Commission has banned it, which means that now, not just within the United States, but internationally, if you're fighting with the UFC's banned it. You're not going to get a therapeutic use exemption for testosterone replacement therapy. A TUE for the TRT. P Money, what do you think?
Well, Jake, I'm all for it. It sounds like pretty much everybody is on the same page. I am against testosterone replacement in any sport. Hell, I'm a borderline Christian Scientist if you want to look at it that way. If you need to put some shit into your body to compete at the highest level, maybe it's time for you to hang it up. You've got the older guys on TRT, yeah, but then you got the young guys like Duffy, who, who knows what the whole situation is there. But no, I don't want it in baseball. I don't want it in MMA, in a sport where we see fighters have died. There was a fighter death, I believe it was this past weekend.
EFC Africa.
Yeah, EFC Africa. One of their fighters died, and so yeah, I'd like to keep the testosterone levels as close to natural in that sport. Keep some sort of semblance of safety and care for the fighters.
Yeah, that's not a story we've planned to talk about, but really briefly, that was a tragic story. South African fighter Buto Gailane dies from injuries sustained at EFC Africa February 27th. He apparently had a lot of internal bleeding in his brain. Was in the hospital afterwards. They tried all they could for days after, but a little more than a week after the fight, he succumbed to injuries. Very sad. Brooks, I'm hoping your connection's a little bit better. Maybe the satellite your phone's connecting to has gone all the way around the earth, and now it's right above you. You're going to be crystal clear. What do you think about Nevada banning TRT the first time through? The only part we heard is that you were stoked.
Yeah, I am stoked. Can you hear me now?
Crystal clear, baby.
All right, great. I am stoked. It's a great thing. I want to see all these fighters fight naturally. If you have to use the TRT, apparently your time in the UFC or MMA is done, and I'm fine with that. I want to see who's the best man when it comes to just man-on-man, no scientific or therapeutic or medical, enhancements. I just want to see who the best guy is. That's what I want to see when I'm watching the fights. Sorry, Vitor. I always thought you were abusing it anyway. I'm going to be sad to see some guys fight without it, like Dan Henderson or whatever. But he has fought without it in the past, and he's looked pretty good anyway. He shot Evans, who's top 3 at light heavyweight. So he's able to do it without it. Vitor, I hope he crashes and burns. Sorry, I've never liked Vitor, just how he is. But, I'm very happy about this. I just want to see the best fighter without any enhancements.
And Vitor almost seems to suffer from the same thing that Jones does. People used to like him. He doesn't seem like a horrible person. He's not out pulling a Thiago Silva, putting a gun in his wife's mouth. Sorry, Jay. But, just the apparent fakeness. He is obviously fake, just like John Jones saying, first he's saying, oh, I'm pulling out of the fight because I can't make it in time. Now, oh wait, I could make it in time, but my manager said this. Oh wait, no, my manager said this, but what we really meant was this. Vitor, you're a clown. Clown status. That's one notch below bum status. We will move on. These next 3 topics are actually all about fight announcements, so let's try and keep them Twitter style. Maybe keep it 15, 20 seconds. Breeze through these, because, damn it, Jay has an exam he's got to study for. The first fight we're going to bring up was a direct result of the TRT decision, a result that I just brought up a few seconds ago. Belfort pulling out of UFC 173. The scuttlebutt is he failed a drug test. He was not yet licensed with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, so that test will not be made public. But he failed the test. Dana White wanted to fire his ass, but Dana White doesn't own the UFC. Lorenzo Fertitta is really the one, when it comes down to it, who makes the big decisions. Lorenzo luckily didn't succumb to the anger of Dana White. And as much as I don't like Vitor, I do want him to stay in the UFC. He is a decent fighter. Dana White couldn't even make it on the Fox Sports 1 appearance. He had to put Sonnen in because he was just so fuming. He couldn't go on television, so mad at Vitor. But long story short, Vitor is out. Lyoto Machida is in. And we got Machida Weidman at UFC 173 as the main event. Who you got in this one? I got my boy Chris Weidman. And it could end any way. I mean, finish via strikes, a submission even. A decision maybe. If I had to guess, I'll say second round guillotine choke for Chris Weidman. Why the hell not? Ray, who you got in Machida Weidman?
This is an absolutely amazing fight. I'm so excited for this fight. My head at the minute is saying Weidman, but I wouldn't be shocked if Machida won because Machida is that good.
I really, really want Machida to take it, man. Just something about Weidman rubs me up the wrong way. Yeah, I've got to. I think Weidman's got enough tools to beat him, but I will be rooting for Machida, and I guess I'll be picking Machida.
Picking Lyoto Machida. P Money.
This is going to be a crazy tough fight to pick. I could easily see it going either way. Really, from Chris Weidman, we've never really seen him in trouble in a UFC fight. It's what those who actually believe he had a chance to beat Anderson Silva before that fight actually happened would allude to, is the sense that, like Anderson Silva and John Jones, previous, they're both of those guys' last couple fights, he'd never even looked like he'd been in trouble in the UFC cage, and he never had. And Machida, we have seen him in trouble, but he's got that style. He's got a diverse skill set. So does Weidman. It's going to be crazy. I don't even know who I'm gonna pick. Coin flip, gun to my head right now. I'll say Weidman.
Chris Weidman, last but not least. Brooks?
I don't think it's that hard to pick. I think it's easy. I think Weidman is a phenom. I know a lot of people.
You cut out again there on us, Brooks.
Either of those fights anyway. Fuck, can you hear me?
Yeah, we heard the very last part.
Hey, I'm picking Weidman.
Hell yeah. Chris Weidman, he's picking him easily. Let's move on. Keep the rapid fire going. A welterweight match at UFC Cincinnati on May 10th. Matt Brown, who originally was slated to fight Carlos Condit this Saturday, had to pull out due to a herniated disc. He's back in it. He's going to take on Eric Silva. Like I said, at UFC Cincinnati, Silva coming off that February win against Takanori Sato via KO. Who you got? Silva has shown he can keep up with top-level wrestlers. He lost to John Fitch in what was the fight of the night, but I think Matt Brown has him here pretty easily. Jay?
It's a great match, but yeah, I'm hoping Matt Brown is able to mix it up with some wrestling and get the stoppage maybe even.
I'm absolutely rooting for Matt Brown here. I don't think Eric Silva has shown that he can hang with wrestlers. I'm picking the Immortal all the way, rooting for him big time to get the KO, keep that streak going.
Keep that streak going, Brooks.
Hey, I'm going with Eric Silva again, easily. I know me and you, Jake, we just disagreed on this. We were talking about it as a potential matchup a couple weeks ago, and we got to come up with some kind of bet because Eric Silva is the truth. He's the future. Eric Silva easily again.
May 10th, we'll do an avatar bet on Twitter and on the MMA Playground. Sorry for cutting you off there, Ray.
I think this is a great fight. But at the minute, I can't pick against Matt Brown. This guy just knocking people out for fun. People who he's supposed to lose to, he just knocks them out. So I'm picking Matt Brown. But I'm well excited for this fight.
And watch out, because Brooks, my first avatar bet ever was picking Matt Brown over Jordan Meehan. We all know how that went. Final fight we're going to break down in rapid fire succession. Junior Dos Santos taking on Stipe Miocic. That's also going to be at UFC 173 with Machida Weidman, May 24th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Who you got? If any of you pick Stipe Miocic over Junior Dos Santos, I'm going to put my head into this desk as hard as I can. P-Money?
Oh, I got Stipe Miocic all day in this fight. Oh, man, no, I'm taking Junior Dos Santos, of course. He's a number one contender perpetually to Cain Velasquez in the heavyweight division. Stipe's on a great run. He's a solid fighter, but he's got nothing for JDS as far as I'm concerned. I think Junior's going to handle him.
As much as I love Stipe, he's my favorite fighter there is right now. He's from Ohio. I've watched him come up in the NAAFS. Junior Dos Santos is, the second best heavyweight. But I hope like hell, I hope to God.
Ray?
Another upset.
This is a one-sided fight for me. I've got JDS winning all the way.
J Jeans.
Should be interesting. Stipe is going to box him and do a pretty good job for about a minute and a half until Junior Dos Santos hits him.
Yeah, I think we all can agree there. Junior in a weird spot. I think most people would agree he's the second best heavyweight in the world, but getting over that trilogy fight with Cain, have we ever had a quadrilogy fight in the UFC? Or in MMA? I can't even think in mixed martial arts two fighters who have ever fought each other 3 times. Obviously, you have trilogies. You've got Hughes GSP. You've got Tito versus Ken. I cannot think of a single quadrilogy. And if Junior wins against Miocic, maybe wins another one after that. He's easily the number 2 guy in what might be the shallowest division, but every time he fights the champ, he gets mauled. He gets a year taken off his life. I don't know. It's a very weird situation there. He's miles above everyone else and miles under Cain Velasquez.
Wasn't
there
there Andrei Arlovsky versus fucking Tim? Oh,
Tim Sylvia?
Yeah, wasn't there 4 fights between those guys?
Let me check. He fought...
Travis Fulton fought people loads of times as well because he did the regional circuit. He fought some guys 4 or 5 times.
Oh, he's knocked the same dude out like 8 times.
Yeah.
Just
not on the big scale, that's all.
Yeah, Patrick, beautiful fucking reference. Andrei Arlovsky beat Tim Sylvia at UFC 51, won the interim heavyweight championship. Then the next year lost the heavyweight championship to Tim Sylvia, lost it again in the rematch. So they fought 3 times in the UFC in a pretty short amount of time at UFC 51, 59, and 61. Then they took 6 years off fighting each other, fought one another at one fighting championship, and we all know how that went with that really bizarre no contest where people weren't informed of the rules, and it ended up being a no contest because of illegal soccer kicks. That was a strange match. Let's keep it rolling. Talk about the history of MMA and UFC 51, everything. The greatest MMA fighter of all time, Anderson Silva. It made me sick too. It both physically made me sick and mentally made me super sad watching one of the best ever. Just his get brutalized. I mean, that was one of the nastiest injuries I've ever seen. His leg snapping, Corey Hill style, after Chris Weidman checked the leg kick. Everyone's saying, the best ever. His career is done. He'll probably never fight again. He's getting older. He's 38. If this happened at 25, whatever. He's 38. But Anderson Silva has not only been keeping close documentation of his comeback, but he's making a good-ass comeback too. Just a couple of days ago, he posted a picture. He's not only walking, the man is kicking. The man is kicking a big medicine ball. Just the will of a champion. I can't wait to see him step back in there. And that's the question I want to throw out. We're seeing all of this stuff with his rehab. He is the best fighter ever. And I have been ranting for a while, but the question is very simple. Will we truly see the return of Anderson Silva at full strength, 100%? Brooks?
No. Simple answer is no. It's going to be really interesting to see him come back. I look forward to seeing how he does perform, but I don't think he's going to be able to hang with Chris Weidman ever. And he might even have some trouble with some other top fighters, but it'll be fun to watch to see what happens. I just don't think he'll ever be the same.
Yeah, and that's not taking anything away from him. He's truly got the heart of a champion, but to watch someone's leg break so brutally, I mean, I don't know how anyone comes back from it. Ray, what do you think about the return of Anderson? Do we see him come back at 100%?
I agree with Brooks. Simple answer is no. I personally like to see him retire now. For me, he's got nothing left to prove. I think he should retire and he's retiring then as one of the best ever. He's got 2 losses in the UFC, both to the same guy. So yeah, I don't want to see him come back and get worse. Plus, I don't want to see him come back and be gun shy.
J Jeans?
I just want to see Bisping versus Silva go down. I don't care whether Silva's at 100%. I don't care if Bisping's can only see out of one eye because he's got to wear an eye patch. That's just a fight I want to see with Bisping's pressure and Silva's everything, highlight reel stoppages and all that. I just want to see it, but I think outside of that match, there's no fights that would be clean and easy for Silva, so to speak. Bisping hasn't got that one shot that's going to knock him out, or he's not really going to break his leg again. But yeah, it's a shame. But I think he won't ever come back 100%. But there are still fights like Bisping, like Kung Lee, that interest me.
Well, I'll go ahead and make it unanimous. I do not think he'll be 100% at any point. Could he be 95%? Sure. But there's just going to be something taken off. I have to believe that from what he suffered to what had to be done to repair that. I don't think he could be 100%. I think he could potentially come back and hang with, the top competition. But obviously, I don't think he'll ever beat Weidman. Like, pretty much everybody's in agreement there. I still think he could do some good things, but really, there's no point. Like Ray said, this would just be a good time to go ahead and, you got nothing left to prove. You can retire with your head held high at this point, I say.
Yeah, and, whether or not he comes back at 100%, even if he came back full blast, I don't think he beats Chris Weidman. Weidman just stylistically is a nightmare for Silva. And let's not take credit away from the dude. Chris Weidman is a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. Yeah, you may not have been familiar with him before 2013 when he originally beat Anderson Silva at UFC 162. But whether you like it or not, Chris Weidman's here. He's young. He's going to be around for a long time. And, I talk about people being ambassadors for the sport. You have people like GSP who put grease on their back in the middle of fights and cheat. You have fighters like John Jones who insult fans. I'm not going to get into it. Listen to the most recent MMA podcast, episode 80. John Jones and I got into a little bit of Twitter beef. He tried to humiliate me. I sort of turned it on him like, yeah, I figured you were just being a jackass. It's a long story. But John Jones and GSP, in my opinion, aren't that good as role models for the sport. Chris Weidman, there could not be a better role model. He's nice, he's polite, he's courteous. He is a true champion, and I'm looking forward to see the rest of his career in the UFC. It's going to be a good one. I'll get off my pulpit, and we'll move on to the last topic of the night. Dana White saying that Daniel Cormier, obviously coming off his win against Patrick Cummins, he says that Cormier will fight the winner of Jones or Glover versus Gus. He is next in line for the title shot. He said that specifically the line for the light heavyweight title, you got Glover, who will be fighting for it in May. Gustafsson has earned a title shot. He will fight the winner of that fight. And then Cormier will fight after that. Cormier has said he wants to take a fight between now and then as well. So who should he fight in the meantime? Daniel Cormier. He's probably going to get his shot if he wins in early 2015. I would assume that Jones Gustafsson 2 would be in September or October of this year, and we'd likely see Cormier Jones or Cormier Gustafsson in early 2015. A lot of names being floated out there as Cormier's next opponent. Maybe the winner of Phil Davis versus Anthony Rumble Johnson. That might make sense. Maybe if Rashad's able to come back by the end of the year, maybe Rashad. The fact he needed surgery on his ACL was very unfortunate because his stock is red hot after beating Chael Sonnen. Ray, who should Daniel Cormier fight in the meantime?
Both fights you say there are good. I do think he needs a win over a top 10 opponent though before he fights the title. But yeah, either fight there you said, or versus the winner of Henderson Shogun. They're the fights that stand out to me.
Yeah, I'm on the same page here. It's either Rumble Davis or I suppose you could go. You could throw him straight in the title shot. It's either going to be Gus or DC next, and if it's not Gus, then it should be DC should face Rumble. Or Davis winner, simple, really.
Well, Ray J, I think you gents once again have summed it up rather neatly. I mean, really, that's about all you can do with this division at this point that makes sense, unless you want to put Cormier up against Ryan Bader, who, I mean, hey, I guess he's coming off a win over Anthony Perosh. He does have a good wrestling background, so... And I believe he's also number 10 in the top 10. So I could see that making a little bit of sense if he just needs another fight right away, if nothing else could be made.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of options here. I mean, there's this next to the heavyweight division. It's, there's the least amount of contenders and top guys. So it's obviously going to be the winner of Phil Davis and Rumble Johnson, or the winner of Shogun Henderson, which I think is going to be the winner of Davis and Johnson, which is obviously probably going to be Davis. He's going to be a big favorite in that. I'd like to see Anthony Johnson pull out a win, but in my eyes, my prediction is it'll be Phil Davis.
Phil Davis, we'll see. He will be the favorite over Rumble, and Phil would definitely be that 205 contender that would really give Cormier a legit reason to fight for the title. As far as Jones saying that Cormier hasn't fought anybody, listen, Jonesy, Cormier has beaten Frank Mir, Roy Nilsson, Bigfoot Silva, and Josh Barnett, 4 legit heavyweights. So how about you shut your trap for a second? We will move on to Guess That Tweet. This week it is hosted by the indomitable Ray Thompson, and I don't think we need any more than that. If you're familiar with the show, you know the format of the game. We read a tweet. Ray will give you a selection of fighters to choose from. We'll guess. Jay will probably cheat, and a winner will be crowned at the very end. Are you ready to go, Ray?
I am. I've got 4 tweets, and then if there's a tie after 4, I've got 1 over tweet.
Someone needs to mute up, sorry.
That was Jay breathing. Are we ready?
Jay, you damn breather. I'm ready. Ray, I'm passing the reins to you. Let's do this shit.
Okay, right. The first tweet then. Learning how to be a better combatives and martial arts instructor daily. Today was knife fighting. Was that A, Carlton Smith, B, Brian Stan, C, Neil Magny, or D. Robert Whiteford?
Combatives. I think combatives is like an army term, so I'll go with Colton Smith.
Yeah, I was thinking that he might already have some knife training, or either way, I'll go with Colton Smith. He probably knows what he's doing with a knife.
Patrick?
Yeah, combatives, that's definitely a military term. But Neil Magny was also in the military, so I will go with him.
And Brooks?
I'm pretty sure that Brian Stan was also in the military, but I'm going to stick with Colton Smith anyhow.
Okay, you're right, all those three were in the military. It wasn't Robert Whiteford, it wasn't Neil Magny, it wasn't Brian Stan, it was Colton Smith. So we've got points going to everyone apart from me and Patrick there.
Woo!
Whoop whoop.
Okay, tweet number 2. Pad work is done for the day. Now I can soak up some of this 60-degree weather slinging some arrows. Was that A, Dan Miller, B, Cole Miller, C, Jim Miller, or D, Mika Miller? And we'll start off with Brooks.
Oh man, that's a tough one. It's either Dan or Jim. I'm going to go with Jim Miller.
And we go to Patrick.
I'm going with Jim, too. That's my boy.
Jay.
Steven Seiler would beat them all at once. Did the last two people pick the same guy?
Yeah.
I'll go with whoever they picked as well.
Okay, Jake.
Let's make it a clean sweep.
No drama then, it was Jim Miller.
Yeah.
I had to put all the Millers in together. I thought that'd be quite funny. But yeah, so that's a point for everybody, apart from myself. Okay, tweet number 3. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. And they've obviously quoted someone called Dale Carnegie. And that was either A, Forrest Griffin, B, Rich Franklin, C, Colton Smith, or D, Kenny Florian. And we start with Jake.
I don't think Forrest Griffin is serious enough. I don't think Colton Smith is smart enough to tweet this. So between Kenny Florian and Rich Franklin, Florian tweets like 10 times as much as Franklin, so I'll go with Ken Flo.
I had the same logic on the Forrest Griffin and the Colton Smith thing. You went Kenny, I'll go Rich.
Patrick?
Damn, I don't know who to copy now. I'll go ahead and go with Rich.
Brooks?
Jay cheats, so that's probably a good idea. Sorry, go ahead, Brooks.
Yeah, I'll go with Ken Flo.
Okay, so to let's just get straight to the drama. It wasn't Griffin, it wasn't Smith. It was either Franklin or Ken Flo. It wasn't Ken Flo, it was Rich Franklin. So I believe that's points for Jay and Brooks.
Kenny never puts any quotes, Jake. You got to learn these sort of shit, man. You can't
Called
go and
it.
guess that tweet if you're not a fucking idiot.
Or if you don't cheat, apparently.
Tweet number 4. Happy birthday to my friend and mentor, the legend at Henzo Gracie BJJ. Like a fine wine, my brother, you get better with age. Was that A, Damien Meyer, B, Chris Weidman, C, Matt Serra, or D, Joe Lauzon? We'll start with Brooks.
I'm going to go with Matt Serra.
Patrick?
P-Money, you there?
Terribly sorry. I'll go with the Terra, Matt Serra.
Jay?
My instinct was Frankie Edgar for some reason. It's not going to be Maya. It's not going to be Edgar because he wasn't even on the list. Who was the other two? Matt Serra?
Weidman and Lauzon.
I
Maya
guess I'll go
Weidman,
with
Sarah
Joe Lauzon.
Yeah, I was thinking it's not Maya. Maya, I don't think is good enough at English to tweet that. No offense, but that just seemed like a pretty, educated tweet by someone who knew the language. Weidman, I don't think he tweets that often. Doesn't really tweet that colorfully. Between Lauzon and Sarah, it's tough. But I know Matt Serra is always having a glass of wine with his pasta, so I'll go with the Terra.
Okay, to cut the drama out then, it wasn't Meyer or Weidman. It was either Serra or Lauzon. It wasn't Lauzon, it was Matt Serra. So everyone gets a point apart from Jay. which I believe that puts us all at
Wow.
a tie.
That puts us all at 3 points.
Except
Okay,
for
so-
Ray.
Yeah, except for me. So we're going to go for the overflow one then. Now this one is something that made me laugh because it's about a program that I like. So I don't know whether you guys like this program or not. So what I'm going to do then to make this interesting, I'm gonna randomise the order, and you're all going to get to pick. But you can. It's just a matter of picking one person. So once that person's gone, someone else can't pick him. So we're going to have one winner.
All right.
Okay. So mixing things up then, it's going to be Patrick, Jay, Brooks, Jake. So we're going out of order, okay?
Ugh.
Like we got fucked here, Jake.
Damn it. Jay's going to win it. Fuck. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Second pick.
I don't know if any of you watch this program, but I love this program. Lord Ned Stark, true king to the Seven Realms. Fuck Joffrey Baratheon. Do anyone watch that program?
No.
No, sir.
Have you ever heard of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
None of you watch it. You're missing out.
I've heard of it. I just haven't made the time, between Breaking Bad and True Detective and The Walking Dead. Only is
Okay, well I've made it hard for you anyway because the other ones all went pretty easy. So, Lord Ned Stark, true king to the Seven Realms. Fuck Joffrey Baratheon. Right. It is either A. Luke Barnett, B. Brad Scott, C. Brad Pickett, or D. Ross Pearson. And Patrick. Yeah, Patrick, you're up first.
Oh man, I have no clue. I'll just go with Ross Pearson.
Jay, you're up second.
It's such a Northern England thing. I don't know anybody. I would have gone with Ross Pearson as well, man. He's pretty up north of
Can't
East
go wrong.
Sunderland.
You've got three people.
Who was the other two?
Brad Pickett, Brad Scott, Luke Barnett.
Luke Barnett, I think, is Manchester. Is it Manchester? I think he's pretty north. I'll go with Luke Barnett.
He's actually Cambridge.
Fuck, I'm screwed.
Brooks, you've got a choice of Brad or Brad.
Oh fuck.
None of them are north.
Oh, that's good. Let's go with Brad Pickett.
Man, that leaves me.
Brad
at le-
or Scott.
Yeah, that leaves me with a tough choice. I guess I'll go with Brad Scott.
Right, it wasn't Brad Scott.
Good.
It wasn't Luke Barnett.
Even better. I'm glad Jay didn't win.
You're shitting me. I bet it's going to be fucking Ross Pearson, Northern English scum.
It wasn't Brad Pickett.
This is
Well done, Patrick. You dominated.
You beat me on a Northern English question.
You beat him on an
Oh.
Patrick, you have any words for the listeners winning your 4th championship at Guess That Tweet?
Yes, it was a hotly contested battle, as it always is when we step up to the plate here at the MMA Roundtable. Of course, I put up a tough fight. I ended up whooping everybody's ass. All praise be to myself. It was a fantastic showing on my part. Everybody else, not so much. I'm incredibly good looking. I'm humble in victory and gracious in defeat. And I love you all. Ray, thank you for setting me up with a lob there. Love you, buddy.
Hell yeah, and Ray, we do appreciate you compiling the tweets. I'm sorry I missed. I had literally didn't see until like 10 minutes before the show. You're like, hey, I'm busy. Can anybody do the tweets? Because I really have a lot, I got a lot going on. Then you're just like, oh yeah, no one said anything. Fuck you guys. I guess I'll get the tweets. God damn it. So sorry about that. I had a really late night last night, and truthfully didn't wake up until not too long before the show. But Ray, we appreciate the shit out of it, and we will move on, I guess, to UFC 171. It's going to be this Saturday in Dallas, Texas. We're going to see the only belt that's not currently held by anyone. George St. Pierre vacated the welterweight title. And we're going to see Johnny Hendricks and Robbie Lawler go toe-to-toe at it. This is going to be a sick-ass card. God, this is, of all the fight nights we've had recently, this is going to be a damn barn burner. And let's start with the prelims. Let's just get straight to it. The prelim fights, that's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. We're going to see a featherweight match between Daniel Pineda versus Robert Whiteford. Bubba McDaniel taking on Sean Strickland at middleweight. Will Campuzano taking on Justin Scoggins at flyweight. That's really the fight that stands out of these four to me. And at lightweight, we have Rene Forte taking on Frank Trevino. Jay, you have any thoughts on this bunch of fights? Tor Trong originally was supposed to fight Bubba McDaniels, but Trong was forced out with an injury, replaced by UFC newcomer Sean Strickland. The same was with Will Campuzano and Daryl Montague. Montague was injured and replaced by Justin Scoggins. What do you think about these fights?
There's a few fights on here where it's just like, I don't really care, but the main card is absolutely stacked. I mean, you mentioned Daniel Pineda. He's always fun to watch. This Sean Strickland guy looks like he has some potential. I hate Robert McDaniel. There's nothing about him that interests me, so I'm looking forward to seeing Strickland try and make a debut and try and make a statement. But yeah, other than Daniel Pineda and hopefully a good year in store for Daniel, I really couldn't care about the rest of the fights.
P-Money?
Well, I agree with you, Jake, in the sense that I believe Campuzano Scoggins is really the bout to watch. If just for Scoggins, he really looked good in his flyweight debut. If he can put on a similar performance against Campuzano, man, talk about a legit contender at 125 pounds. Get him fast-tracked. I love that they got him on a quick turnaround. Daniel Pineda always brings it as well. Solid scraps for a 13-fight card.
Yeah, I agree. You guys aren't interested in the prelims. Kind of surprises me. There's a lot of good fights there. Now, is Calvin Gastelum and Rick Story on the prelims, or is that on the television?
That's on the Fox Sports 2 prelims, which we will get to in just a moment.
Okay, my bad. So anyway, like you guys were saying, McDaniels, I do not appreciate that guy, like him at all. He came off really horrible on the Ultimate Fighter show, and he's a whiner. He thinks he's better than what he really is. Kind of reminds me of the Queen of Spades or whatever, Shayna Baszler. But anyway, Aside from that, Scoggins, I'm really looking forward to him fighting. He trains out of a great camp. He looked really good in his debut. Alex Garcia, I'm not sure if that's on the prelims we're talking about now, but I'm looking forward to seeing him also.
Really quickly, I did before Ray jumps in. I did want to mention Brooks. I agreed with you. Watching Tough 17, the contestant who annoyed me the most was Bubba McDaniel. He seemed to always be, saying this, saying that, coming across the wrong way. I'll be honest. I was shocked. In November in Las Vegas, I had a chance to actually meet Bubba, and he and I talked for like 5 or 10 minutes. He could not have been any cooler, any nicer. Brooks, I don't fault you at all, because watching the season, I thought the exact same thing you did. But I guess I don't know if it's a lesson of not judging a book by its cover, but I've talked shit about Bubba before I met him. Top class dude. It was an honor to meet him in Vegas, and actually we were going to have him on the show before his fight. Things were getting a little hectic with the opponent change, and he had to reschedule, but I'm looking forward to having him on. Really cool dude. Ray, what do you think about these 4 fights on the Fight Pass prelims?
I'm not overly excited by the fights on the Fight Pass prelims. I mean, I'll watch them. I won't be able to watch it live, obviously, because I'll be fighting myself, but I'll watch them the next day. I'm interested in the first one because of Robert Whiteford, because he's obviously from the UK. He trains with Joanne Calderwood, who we're going to see making a mark in the near future. So I hope he does well. And I was really interested in Bubba McDaniel and Tor Trung, because I like that season of Tough. And obviously we've lost that fight now, which I think was a big hit to the prelims at UFC Fight Pass. So, yeah, the other two haven't really jumped out at me, to be honest with you.
Word. We will move on past the Fight Pass prelims, and get to the Fox Sports 2 prelims. You might notice most of these prelims are usually televised on Fox Sports 1, but due to the conference championships going on in college basketball that night, they will be bumped down to Fox Sports 2. We're going to see Sean Spencer taking on Alex Garcia at welterweight, a fight between Dennis Bermudez and Jimmy Hedis at featherweight, a women's bantamweight fight, Raquel Pennington against Jessica Andrade. Juliana Pena was originally supposed to fight Jessica Andrade, but she had that knee injury we talked about a month or two ago and was replaced by a contestant on the same season at Tough, Raquel Pennington. We got Kelvin Gastelum taking on Rick Story, which this is really a fight I cannot wait for. And we're going to go ahead and include the main card fight of OSP versus Nikita Krylov in this, because I don't know if it really warrants a topic on its own. OSP was originally supposed to fight Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva did some batshit crazy shit with a gun, showed up at the Popovich training center, threatened a bunch of people, and Dana White says he'll never fight in the UFC again. So we'll go ahead and lump OSP and Krylov in with that group. Like I said, Kelvin Gastelum versus Rick Story. This is a great fight. Rick Story, the only way I can describe Rick Story is a brick. Plain and simple. That guy is just a bulldog in the octagon. But he's taken on another bulldog in Kelvin Gastelum, and I believe Gastelum's a little bit of an underdog, but I'm actually picking him in this fight. What about you guys? Who you got? I'll throw it to P-Money first.
Story Gastelum, that's going to be a great fight. Story, I think he's got a couple W's going on right now. He's got a little bit of momentum on his side. And I want to say he's still a fairly young contender, but Gastelum, definitely young buck, up and coming, looking real good. Won the Ultimate Fighter at 185, beat Uriah Hall, who just retired Chris Leben. He's been looking impressive, definitely. So I definitely would put a little bet out there on him for sure. OSP Krylov, that'll be interesting. Definitely want to see Krylov at 205. And Andrade Pennington, that should be a solid scrap as well. Decent fights for sure. Should be a nice appetizer to the pay-per-view main card.
And I did forget to mention the odds. Alex Garcia, a pretty sizable favorite over Spencer at -400. Bermudez -225 over Hedis. Andrade, a sizable -300 favorite over Pennington. Kelvin Gastelum, I was actually incorrect. He will be the favorite against Rick Story at -180. Story sitting at +150. And finally, OSP, a big favorite over Nikita Krylov at -365. And if you don't have any clue what the hell I was just talking about, congratulations, you're not a degenerate like me. Brooks?
I'm looking forward to these prelims, as I said before. Gastelum versus Story is going to be great. I've always been a huge fan of Rick Story. Kelvin Gastelum's a really good fighter also. He's fun to watch. I'm hoping against hope that Story pulls off this upset here, because I knew that he was the underdog coming in. But, man, he had a hell of a streak going on, and then he kind of hit a wall where he lost to Damian Maia pretty quick. And I think he got kind of the rip-off there against Mike Pyle. I thought he won that fight. But now he's back in his winning ways. I hope he can pull this off. Bermudez had some hype coming in. He won fairly convincingly in his debut, and then he lost. And now we're seeing Bermudez just run through the division right now against the guys he's been facing. I think Bermudez has a slight advantage in this one. Spencer versus Garcia, I think it's going to be the classic wrestler versus striker type fight. Garcia trains out of TriStar. He's one of their few finishers nowadays, so it'll be interesting. I think Spencer has the potential to pull off the upset with some wrestling, but Garcia, I'll pick him to win that one. And I'm really looking forward to these prelims.
Hell yeah, Ray.
Starting from the bottom, then Spencer Garcia, I'm not overly sold on yet. I don't know much about either guy, so I haven't really got an opinion on that fight either way. Bermudez is a fight I'm looking forward to. They're both known for being really good on the ground, both known for being quite aggressive as well. Jessica Andrade and Raquel Pennington's a fight I'm looking forward to. Andrade looked really good in her win over Rosie Sexton. She smashed Rosie Sexton in the UK. It was quite hard to watch actually. And Raquel obviously had a pretty good showing on the Ultimate Fight, especially the fight of one of the fights of the seasons, of course, which she won. Gastelum's Story is a fantastic fight. I mean, really, that could be higher up on the main card. It's a great matchup. They're just two very similar style fighters. I can't wait for that fight. OSP and Krylov is a fight I'm looking forward to as well. I think Krylov surprised a lot of us with his last fight at heavyweight when he won by knockout. I think we all thought he was going to get steamrolled, and he obviously didn't. OSP I think is very, very underrated, so I think he'll come in and get a good win. But yeah, I like those. I like those fights.
Oh, sorry, I was muted up, boys. There's a few good fights in the card. I'm looking forward to seeing Dennis Bermudez, of course. The OSP fight, I think he's going to steamroll him. But yeah, I don't know much from this Sean Spencer guy, so it'd be interesting to see how these two perform. And yeah, the Andrade fight, as Ray said, it was hard to watch Sexton versus Andrade. So overall, yeah, these cards should be a good undercard. I'm not, as I said earlier, I'm not sold on the first 4 fights, but these 4 are starting to get better.
Fuck yeah. And Jay, I gotta credit you. In the history of the MMA podcast, we've maybe had 50 to 60 times where someone's muted up, and then, I've been like, hello, Jay, and you're like, oh, sorry. That was the first time anyone has realized they were talking while muted up without anyone saying anything. We were just quiet, and you were like, oh, figured it out. So I gotta credit you for being ultra aware there that you were muted up. Boys, let's move on to the main card. And what a main card we have. I was telling Jay earlier, I feel like every month the UFC sort of picks a weight class or a weight class or two and says, all right, this month we're going to sort out this weight class. We had that, I think it was UFC 146 card way back where it was all heavyweights. Last month we had a lot of sorting out at middleweight between Jacare and Carmont, Machida and Musauzi, a couple other fights there. This month, it is the month of the welterweights. We got Story Gastelum on the undercard, and 3 of the 4 fights we're going to be breaking down specifically are welterweight fights. Shields Lombard, Condit Woodley, obviously for the championship, Hendricks Lawler, all those fights very important in the 170-pound division. Let's start with Jake Shields taking on Hector Lombard. Both of these guys obviously on a little bit of a tear. Hector Lombard just has looked like an absolute monster, recently defeating Nate Marquardt via punches at UFC 166. His start in the UFC was a little shaky. He started out 1-2, but he moved down to welterweight after losing to Yushin Okami and Tim Boach, and just looked like a stud, knocking out Marquardt. Since losing the welterweight championship to George St. Pierre, Shields has only lost once to Jake Ellenberger, winning fights against Yoshihiro Akiyama. He beat Ed Herman originally. It was turned over due to a failed post-fight drug test. And then wins against Tyron Woodley and Damian Maia have put him on the board. But the fact that he's such a boring fighter, literally he beat Woodley just last summer in June 2013, not even a year ago. But since then, Woodley has surpassed Shields in the rankings because he's that exciting. And maybe, Shields is 8th and Woodley's 10th, but Woodley is getting a better fight than Shields fighting in the co-main event. Heck, as far as who I see winning, Hector Lombard is too much. I have him winning easy. I honestly think Lombard might be a future UFC welterweight champion. I got high hopes for him. Brooks, Shields, Lombard, who you got? The lines really quickly, I'll throw in Lombard minus 220, Shields plus 180.
I'm going with the underdog here. I'm going with Jake Shields. I think he's been the underdog probably in the past 3 fights that he's been in. Obviously, the Woodley fight was really extremely close. A lot of people thought Woodley won that fight, but it could have gone either way. You couldn't be disappointed with the decision no matter who it went to. Everybody thought he was going to lose to Damian Maia, and he won that fight convincingly in my eyes. And, I think the way that the blueprint that people have come up with to beat Jake Shields is to rush him. Jake Ellenberger did it. And, that's kind of Lombard style. So he rushes people and he beats their ass. But in my eyes, I think he might have learned from his loss against Ellenberger, and I think this time around he's gonna keep on proving everybody wrong. I got Shields by decision.
Shields by decision, Ray.
I think Shields is one of the fighters I look forward to the least to watch. I think his style is so boring. But yeah, I'm all over Lombard on this. I think Lombard comes in and gets a quick knockout, and that's what I want to happen as well. I don't look forward to Jake Shields' fights at all. His fight with Maia was horrible to watch. But yeah, Lombard round 1 knockout.
J Jeans.
Yes, I'm a huge Jake Shields fan. I really want him to take this win. I mean, he outstruck Akiyama into hiding. Akiyama has become the latest Osama bin Laden. He has ran away. He wants nothing to do with the embarrassment Jake Shields did to him that night. The Tyron Woodley win, it was exactly the right strategy to beat Woodley. I mean, everybody's on about how Condit Woodley winner would be the next challenger. Let's not forget Jake Shields beat this guy. And then, of course, the Damian Maia, where that was another great fight, back and forth. I'm going to say great because I did enjoy the Woodley fight because Jake Shields won. The Maia fight, yeah, how you out grapple the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy in the division, that he is the best in the division. I'm just hoping he can survive the first few minutes with Lombard, and then Lombard's weight cut will probably get the best of him in the later rounds, and Shields might be able to sneak in that rear naked choke. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm picking.
Damn. Well, like pretty much everyone else, I'm really hoping that Jake loses this one. I mean, no offense to Jake, great guy and everything, but no, Shields, not Walters. That kid's a fucking G. But no, I mean Jake Shields, he's a jiu-jitsu gangster, no doubt about it. But his style does not fill the seats. That is not at all the case. I am one of those that think that Woodley beat him. I wish it was by a knockout, so it was more definitive. But having said that, having seen Shields take it from Woodley, I'm thinking he'll probably be able to do the same thing against Lombard. Granted, Lombard, he's more of a different style. He's got the judo background. Which, of course, hey, styles make fights. That does make this different from the Woodley fight. But also, Lombard is, if I recall, he's going to be a fairly sizably smaller opponent than Jake Shields. I mean, Lombard, even at 170, I think he's like 5'8". Shields is, I don't know, maybe 6 feet. So there's going to be that size discrepancy there. I keep picking against Shields, and I keep being wrong, which is unfortunate. So I'm going to pick Shields this time and hope that underdog pays off.
That underdog. A lot of people going with the underdog here in Jake Shields. Shields, I can see as a good underdog pick. I mean, yeah, I am picking Lombard, but Shields, is by no means for sure going to lose, and the odds are pretty good. The only non-welterweight fight, we move a weight class down to lightweights for Miles Jury taking on Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez coming off what a lot of people thought was the fight of the year in 2013 against Gil Melendez, a fight he did lose, but looked pretty good in. Is 1-1 since returning to lightweight. He beat Takanori Gomi via split decision, although he did miss weight during that fight. Miles Jury, he doesn't have a loss on his record, coming off a split decision win against Mike Ricci. Let's not forget about the unanimous decision he pulled against Michael Johnson at UFC 155 in 2012. A win here against Diego Sanchez vaults him up into that top 10 and being 2 or 3 fights away from a title for Jury. I actually have Jury here, who I believe is favored in Vegas minus 170 to Sanchez's plus 150. I think Jury pulls it off. What do you guys think, Ray?
I think this is a great matchup as well. I love watching Diego Sanchez fight. He's one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. I like Miles Jury as well. He's had a couple of fights which have been a bit boring to watch, but for the most part, I like watching him. I think Sanchez gets it done. He's aggressive style. He can fight for 15 minutes. I think he'll wear Jury out. I wouldn't even be surprised to see him get a submission.
J Jeans?
Are we talking about the Sanchez fight or the Jury? Sanchez Jury, yeah? Sorry.
We're talking about both of those fights.
Sanchez and Woodley.
Sanchez and Jury, they're fighting each other.
Yeah, they are. Man, you're confusing me. They may as well be having a tournament or some shit. That's going to be really interesting. It depends where Miles Jury wants the fight to take place. I think he's going to dictate a lot. I think Sanchez is going to pressure him. I'm hoping it's a war, but I think Jury's going to be too technical for him, but let's hope for the best.
Yeah, this fight should be pretty crazy. Jury, he's undefeated. He looks better every time he comes out. Sanchez, he's a super tough test for anybody at 155. If I'm not mistaken, he's only ever been stopped by BJ Penn, which was in BJ Penn's prime, and which was in the 5th round, TKO by cuts. So virtually unfinishable. Virtually undroppable, even when he was fighting at 170. We all saw the ass whooping he took from Campman. I'm going with Jury, though. I'm going with the young buck.
I got to go with Sanchez here. I mean, Sanchez, for some reason, gets a lot of hate. I haven't heard you guys hate on him too much, but, man, I've loved Sanchez since back in the day, fresh off the Ultimate Fighter. His fights with Carl Parisian and Nick Diaz are both just classic fights. And I think at 155 he's better than he is at 170, even though he's still good at 170. And, I think he's definitely Jury's toughest test to date. And I think this is going to be Jury's wall right now. I think he's going to get his first official loss.
Hell yeah, wait, I just got super lost. Yeah, all right, we are moving on. I just got caught up in a GIF I came across on the UG where Vanderlei Silva accused Chael Sonnen of wearing a wig, and it's this GIF of a wig just going back and forth from Chael's bald head to Vanderlei's bald head. And I'm not going to lie, I got lost in it for a few minutes. Only 2 more topics to go, though. The co-main event, Carlos Condit taking on Tyron Woodley. Condit, just a great fucking striker. He fought GSP in a title not too long ago. Woodley up and coming. That loss to Nate Marquardt is still memorable, but his win against Josh Koscheck was even more memorable. I'm actually picking Tyron Woodley here. I think Condit is the favorite for good reason. He's an amazing striker, but Woodley has some top-notch wrestling, which Condit has proven to be a little shaky at his wrestling defense. So I'm taking Tyron Woodley to win the fight here. Who you got, Jay?
This is a really interesting matchup. I'm thinking Woodley should be able to out-wrestle him. I mean, I know that during the Bonehead a few statistics were mentioned, but I think out of his last 13 opponents, out of his last 14 opponents, he's been taken down by 13 of them. Condit's takedown defense really isn't that good. I think the other one is his overall takedown defense is 41% success rate of defending them. So if Woodley can grab him, he might be on his back. He's trying to improve that, but that is a huge issue. I also think that with the power that Woodley can bring, Condit's going to be a bit cautious, and I think that's Woodley's chance to get the takedown and lay and pray. Hopefully Jake Shields can get a submission and Woodley can get the lay and pray, so then we can set up Shields Lawler. That's what I'm hoping for.
This is another super tough fight for me to call personally. Woodley Condit, I could see it going either way. Both guys really have good, well-rounded games in different areas. Woodley more of a striker wrestler. Condit more of a striker grappler. Again, like you guys mentioned, the takedown defense really not there. But part of that's just because he's content on the ground. He does have that resume there. As far as who I'm going to pick in this one, it's super tough, but I'm going to go with Condit. He's just been in the game a little longer. He's been fighting the tougher competition. I'm going to have to go with Condit.
I could see this fight playing out really similar to Condit and Hendricks. Condit Hendricks fight. I believe that Hendricks and Tyron Woodley, at this point in his career at least, are very similar fighters. They both pack a lot of power, and they're both great wrestlers. So, I mean, I don't see a huge difference in them. The difference I do see in them is that Johnny Hendricks at this point is a better fighter overall than Tyron Woodley. He's just better. I don't know what it is. He's got that way to win. When and Condit made that fight really close. So I can see Tyron trying to use some wrestling, but at this point he's been just trying to strike. I think maybe it was because that's what Koscheck does too, so they wanted to be entertaining. And that was a hell of a knockout against Koscheck.
But I just think, man, I'd love to see a finish from Condit. And I know I was talking earlier about how Condit has that good finishing rate, but I'm not sure if he'll be able to finish Woodley or not. I know that he'll definitely try, and he always does. But I think I'm going to pick Condit by decision here.
I think this is another amazing fight. I mean, this main card is just each fight is just seems to get better and better and better. I think Condit is diversity in his striking. He's shown he can hang with the power because he hung with the power of Hendricks. I think the difference would be his diversity in striking, and I think he'll get a stoppage over Woodley, similar to what Marquardt did. So I've got Condit by TKO, but it's a great, great fight.
Yeah, this is if it wasn't for the main event being so damn epic, this would maybe be the fight I'm looking forward to most. But let's get to the main event, people. George St. Pierre relinquishing his belt, so we're going to see Johnny Hendricks, who a lot of people thought beat George at UFC 167, and Robbie Lawler, who also fought at UFC 167, defeating Rory McDonald on that main card. Hell of a fight. The winner gets the welterweight strap. Johnny Hendricks, a pretty sizable favorite, pardon me, at minus 375. It's going to be a hell of a war. Both of these guys like to stand. They like to bang. It's going to be a fun fight. Simply put, the final topic of the night, I'll throw it to my boy P Money first. Johnny Hendricks, the big rig, taking on ruthless Robbie Lawler. Who you got?
I got Johnny Hendricks, Jake, and I got him all day and all night. He's just been a beast. He did beat GSP, plain as day, and he's got the beard, figuratively and literally speaking. I mean, that beard is powerful, and that jaw is made of lead. I mean, he's taken the shots of Koscheck, of Pierce, of anybody you can think of at 170. He's taking it. He's sharpened up his game. He's got the power in both hands. He's got tremendous wrestling credentials. Definitely better than Lawler. Lawler has not shown that same chin, although he has been looking beast lately. He's been looking fucking savage. I love what he did to Rory McDonald. That was so satisfying. As have watching all of his fights. It's going to be fucking spectacular either way. But for me, I see it either just being a slugfest that Hendricks is able to inch out, or I see Hendricks finishing Robbie Lawler in fucking brutal fashion and taking the belt that should be his already. So I'm taking Hendricks, like I said, all day in this one.
Has Robbie Lawler ever been finished by strikes? Anybody know?
Let me look that up. I got the Wikipedia in front of me. Of Robbie's 9 losses, only 1 loss was via KO, and that was early in his career to the one and only Nick Diaz at UFC 47.
How did I forget that fight? That was great.
You sound like you're underwater or 20 feet away from your phone right now.
All right, can you hear me better?
Much better.
All right, I apologize. Anyway, I think it's obvious that Hendricks has got a huge advantage in this fight, and it's his wrestling. I don't think Hendricks will be able to finish Lawler on the feet. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I really hope Robbie Lawler pulls it off. Who doesn't love Robbie Lawler? He goes in there and he bangs and he throws down every fight, and that's what everybody likes to see. And I'll be rooting for him, but I've got to go with Hendricks here. I think he's the better all-around fighter, and and when it comes down to it, I think he's going to win on points.
This is, like we keep saying for every fight, this is another amazing matchup. It's like every fight
MMA
keeps
mental.
getting better and better and better. This is another mental matchup. But, I mean, both these guys are capable of finishing this fight with one punch. I don't think it'll go the distance. I think one of them will get knocked out. I think Hendricks will knock out Lawler. But it would be one of the biggest comebacks in the history of MMA, I think, if Lawler was to get the win. Just because he's kind of gone from being this middle-of-the-road middleweight. He's returned to the UFC, and he's now fighting for a title. It's quite an amazing story, really.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this fight as well. I think there will be blood. Somebody is going to get hurt. I'm just hoping it won't be Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler just looks right now, he looks so determined and set on that title. But Johnny Hendricks, he's got something to prove. He's coming off that loss that wasn't really a loss. He's going to be out there to hurt someone. I think a lot of people are thinking Hendricks will be able to lay and prey on Robbie. Robbie's going to have trained his arse off preparing for that. I think he's ready. I think Hendricks is going to come out there, but Lawler is going to just be too experienced. He's going to know about that left hand coming. He's not going to allow Hendricks to push him up against the fence. He's always going to be circling. I think this is Robbie Lawler's time, and I can't wait. That's why I want to see. I want to see Jake Shields versus Robbie Lawler, man. Somebody's getting subbed. Somebody's getting KO'd. That's the fight I want to see, but that's just a dream for now. I'll be picking Robbie Lawler for the upset.
Very, very bold pick, picking Robbie Lawler for the upset. And unless anyone has any other notes about UFC 171 or the week in mixed martial arts, I think that wraps up the roundtable just at about 2 hours, 10 minutes on the dot. As always, we really do appreciate the shit from our listeners, and if you do want to listen to the roundtable, you can follow it on iTunes or YouTube if you don't catch it live on Ustream every other week, Tuesday afternoons or Tuesday nights if you're in the UK, to watch it on YouTube. Just find our channel, the MMA Podcast. We usually post it up within 12 or actually a few hours, as long as YouTube isn't being super slow. It's on YouTube. It's immediately thrown up on the iTunes. You can subscribe to us also by visiting themmapodcast.com. Click the links on the top for YouTube and iTunes and subscribe to us there. Like I said, the positive support and the listenership we've gotten is blowing me away. So we appreciate the shit out of it. And of course, I appreciate the shit out of our 4 panelists today. Brooks, where can we find you on Twitter and all that good shit?
You can find me at the MMA Addiction. I haven't been that active lately. I've had a lot of movement going on, but I can promise you I'm going to start dedicating some more time to that. And Facebook at the MMA Addiction. That's where you can find us. Definitely follow him on Twitter and Facebook, the MMA Addiction. P Money, you're on Twitter at Sweet Pappy Jones. You have any other shout-outs?
No other shout-outs. Just follow your boy at Sweet Pappy Jones. Follow the whole Roundtable crew. It's the best move you can make.
It really is. It's the best thing you can do with your life. Of course, the indomitable Jay Jeans, studying for a test, about to ace the shit out of it. You can follow him on Twitter at TheJJeans. What else is going on?
Man, as I said before, if you follow me at TheJJeans, any question you ask, I will get back to you, no matter how absurd it is. People have asked me about scrambled eggs before and told me off for microwaving me and shit like that. But yeah, man. Another good show. Thanks a lot, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Jay is definitely a quality follow. TheJJeans. Last and not least, Ray Thompson, good luck in your charity MMA fight on Saturday. If there's any way I can see a stream or a video of it, I would pay money for it. You've inspired the shit out of us with all you've done. Where can we find you? Where can we find your interviews? And what interviews are coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, follow me. Thank you for the good luck for the fight. Though it won't be streamed live, but there will be a video link afterwards that I will get shared amongst all my friends and family to watch, including you guys. Follow me on Twitter at MMA Mental. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Interviews confirmed for this week. I've interviewed Igor Araujo and just released that one. I've interviewed Neil Seary. I'll be releasing that one tomorrow. And I've got an interview with Brad Pickett, which I'm looking forward to. I'm in talks with a few others, but no one's come back and confirmed as of yet. But, it'd be nice if I can get some of them signed off as well. And you can have me on Facebook as well, Ray Thompson.
Hell yeah, follow him on Facebook, Ray Thompson. Follow him on Twitter, MMA Mental. Follow us on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Our friends, The Ant, Jimmy Show, Ross Finkelstein, Westland Eagle, AH, Yao _ The Truth, our boy C. Lowenstein. The list goes on and on. We love the shit out of you. We'll see ya tomorrow for the MMA Podcast. We gone.